we're really grateful that you made time to be part of this important conversation. I know it's an exciting time in the South Bay. Anyway, you made time to be here, and we appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and firstly go through our agenda today. Then we'll do a roll call. As we do the roll call, I will ask you to share your name, organization, and also if you have any updates on behalf of the organization you're representing, this will be the point to share. Okay? Before we do that, I'm going to go through the agenda. We'll have a phase 2 program update. Be discussing the tunnel package. That is followed by a brief station design status update. This is not for discussion at this point, but it's just as an FYI for CWG members here to see what we got from the last set of conversations. We had the interim conversation we had in May, and also what's been going on since. Beyond that, we will have a presentation on muck disposal alternatives, a construction update as always. Then we'll finish up with next steps, including information on another interim meeting coming up in July, and other future meetings that will have regular meetings throughout the rest of the year 2026. If we have time, as I mentioned, we'll open up the space for discussion and feedback, both from members of the CWG first, and then members of the public if time allows. That being said, I would love to hear from our CWG members here with us today. Again, name, organization, and any report outs that you may have. I'm going to start here with Don in person, and then once we're done with John and Sean, I'll go online and check in with our CWG members online. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, and importantly, we just talked about it. We're very glad that the pile driving is done, but the concern is now turned to other items, and that would be, for us, it's noise, and followed by a lot more noise that impacts us. And so there is concern, how the some of the next phases will be, how loud they will be, and how the quality of life will be impacted for members of our neighborhood. And that would kind of summarize it. And there is a topic that I would just like clarified after where the actual tunnel hole is. I think, about 6, 9, 12 months ago, we saw some diagrams up on the wall, and someone in the neighborhood just didn't think. I told him where the hole was, and as opposed to where the railroad tracks come up out of the tunnel to at grade. I just wanted to clarify the difference between when they're at grade level versus where the actual location of where the dirt is and the hole, and the boring machine will actually start going in. So it just like to clarify that maybe after the meeting real quick, and then we'll move on. So that's it.
Thanks, John.
Sean Collins, Santa Clara University. I don't have anything relevant to the project, which I guess is probably good news. I mean, we don't have any concerns or issues to raise at this point.
Thanks, Sean. All right, Jack, if you could hear us.
Hi, it's Jack Morash, South Bay Historic Railroad Society. I don't have anything important to say, anything going on, but just let everybody know whenever stuff is going on and anything I find, I do post it on our website for people to go look at. So have a good day.
Wonderful, thank you. Jonathan?
Hi, Jonathan Evans with the Old Quad Residents Association. I've got nothing too exciting to report this time around, but thanks.
Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. This is Todd Trickell representing Hunter Properties, Hunter Partners. We're based here in Cupertino. We have the assets located on the San Jose side of the tracks here at Coleman Highline. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you for being here. Are there any other CWG members I don't We
have Alden on.
Alden, go ahead, Alden.
Hi, everyone. Alden Smith with Holland Partner Group. We manage and built the first 2 residential buildings in Gateway Crossings. I really don't have any major updates for this group, but haven't heard any complaints or issues from the site team. So assuming no news is good news on that front. Thank you.
Thanks, Alden. All right, once again, thank you all for your time. Welcome to the BSB offices here. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Erica for our program update.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, trying to get the clicker line for those of you online. So today I'm going to focus our update on the status of our contract package 2 and our path forward for that. We had a big presentation today at our oversight committee meeting from 12 to 2, and so we're going to walk you through high level what was discussed there in our path moving forward. So initially we awarded this contract in May of 2022 for a very large amount of scope. All that you can see there, that in short kind of constructs everything highlighted in blue in the cross section on the right side under a progressive design build contract. Over the last couple of years, we've reported out here, and just to reiterate, there's several activities that have taken place tied to this tunnel contract, starting with a contract task force that was requested by the board for the program to establish as we were negotiating our price for the lump sum price for stage 2 for the construction of the tunnel with KST. Our prices were far apart. We, in addition, completed industry outreach to understand from contractors what scope they would be interested in if the full CP2 was repackaged. It culminated in the recommendation to the board to off-ramp the KST and to seek a new tunnel contractor while they continued the work of the launch structure that they're working on right now. In August, we held an independent peer review with representatives from Sound Transit and LA Metro who highly encouraged us to try and go back to KST and make things work. In addition, KST, with also came back and said they were interested in continuing conversation. And so all the while that all of this was happening, the West Portal work has been underway, going really well on time and on budget. And so as things were going well and the cost was our only challenge with them, we started more serious conversations, which also has led to additional early works activities that they have been we've been talking about and are going to be advancing to help manage the critical path. So they said they were interested in rediscussing, coming back to the table again to discuss where we're talking about a new structure, which I'll explain in a few slides, but that's focused on a target price for the work rather than a lump sum. So they get reimbursed for costs. This target price incentive contract that Sarah Hersom came and talked about to the group in March is new to the US, but recently implemented with successfully in Toronto and other tunneling jobs in Canada. This slide here shows the work that we've been advancing, not knowing, advancing the tunnel package in the different avenues that it could occur. At the top in green is, when we off-ramped KST, then we were exploring what it would take and how to bring on a new tunnel contractor, which at the time we might have heard it referred to as contract package 5 as a new tunnel contract package. So we were advancing preparations for that. We were working on the conversations with KST, reviewing scope, schedule, and cost. With a contract model shift would allow us to close the gap on our price. And then in the middle, you see the work that we advanced that would apply to both either option and way we move forward. as there's several things there that are necessary regardless of our approach. And the biggest piece being that we advance the tunnel design to 100%. So for comparison, on this slide, it shows all of the elements of scope that were originally included in the CP2 scope. One of the other pieces of feedback we got in the peer review is that the package was much too large. And so we're going through contract repackaging right now. And what we're looking at for this scope now is just for the pre-tunneling work, as well as the bored tunnel and the launch structure work that's currently underway. So this new commercial structure, target price incentive based, has a number of benefits to BTA. There's typically a lot of risk with underground construction under a lump sum model, and this risk is priced in as contingency, increasing the overall cost of the job. With this target price, the risk is not priced in, and BTA only pays for it if it occurs. So this contract has a pain share and incentive-based gain share element to it. Basically, a portion of their fee is at risk, and they're only eligible for it if they're able to meet key performance indicators on cost and schedule and a couple other items. So looking at this, to determine the best path forward for the program, we took what we call a business case, evaluating the two delivery paths, a new tunnel procurement or an amended and restated agreement with KST. And this analysis included cost, schedule, and risk, rather than just the cost alone. Because the tunnel's on the product critical path, the decision must reflect the total program impact, just not consider the contract price of the tunnel alone. So here are the two options considered, amending and restating the agreement with KST under a new target price fixed fee incentive-based commercial model, or bringing on a new tunnel contractor. So schedule comparison and considerations. The work we've been talking about that's been occurring, we've been showing updates on the West Tunnel Portal launch structure in blue is what's occurring at the top half of the screen. I'll go through that first, and then with a new procurement, and then the bottom with KST. The next work is the light green is the additional tunneling work, pre-tunneling work that needs to occur that we've been talking about to prepare, the storage space for the tunnel lining segments, the energization of for the tunnel boring machine, long lead, some procurement items, etc. And while that work is being done, concurrent with that, then we would be procuring and awarding a contract for a new contractor. And then there's some additional pre-tunneling work that needs to be done by the contractor who will be constructing the tunnel that would need to occur afterwards. That work includes the precast tunnel lining, facility construction and fabrication of many of those segments. So if you look at the bottom and you compare the top to the bottom, if KST were to continue that work, that means we could start tunneling somewhere between 17 to 23 months earlier. So we're able to there's a definite schedule benefit to sticking with KST. We also evaluated risk. Procuring a new contractor results in additional risks that are unique to a new tunnel contractor doing the tunnel excavation scope. These were flagged by the peer review, FTA's project management oversight consultant, and other technical experts. And these risks would not occur if KST builds the tunnel. They're new risks that just occur with a new contractor. So they're listed here on the table, so that some of the risks here. So this came into consideration. A big one being BTA would have to take on the liability of providing an owner furnished tunnel boring machine, because KST has procured and it designed the tunnel boring machine for their job, and so BTA paid for it, but they are in owning the machine, and so if we would off-ramp them, then BTA would need to retain ownership and then take on that additional risk of another contractor using that machine. So these were all things that we knew about, or many of them we knew about when we went into the off-ramp, but at the time, that's what seemed like it needed to take place. So as we're evaluating now, you know, the tides are turning a bit. We've come back and this here basically summarizes what the business case concluded. The option A, if we move forward with KST and amending and restating the contract for the work that we're talking about, for those two check boxes there, plus the work at the West Portal, the launch structure, it would cost, the target price is $2.4 billion. And if we went out for a new procurement, our internal cost estimate for that was $2.1 billion, excuse me. And then the increased cost from the schedule being 17 to 23 months longer is, you know, somewhere around $500 million. And then the risk is also somewhere around $500 million. So the less expensive option from a cost perspective, schedule and risk perspective, is option A to move forward with KST. So we're finalizing negotiations with KST for this amendment. We went to the oversight committee today to ask for authorization to enter into this agreement, or rather in this amended and restated contract with KST, only authorizing 1 year of early works, advancing that pre-tunneling work at this time. So it doesn't obligate VTA to select KST for the tunneling work, but preserves it as an option. The oversight committee today unanimously approved that, and it's going to go to the late June board meeting on June 26th for the full board to take action as well. So just to reiterate, this is just for 1 year of pre-tunneling construction work with the ability to move forward with more in the future, knowing that we're on this path wanting KST to continue forward with this work. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions. One other thing I wanted to mention also at the oversight committee today, there was a board action to start to draw down some of our regional measure 3 funding to go towards this work happening at the West Portal. That was also approved. So we'll be moving forward with that as well to be able to use more of those state funds for that.
Thanks, Erica. So we're going to check in with our CWG members on here in person, and then we're going to go over on the check-in for any questions or comments. Anything here in person? No. Okay, Sean, John?
Well, maybe I thought I saw one of the graphics that if we stay with KST, the tunnel boring would start second quarter 2027. Is that right?
No, it's quarter 1 2028 is the time frame we're looking at.
Oh, quarter 1. Okay, then that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone online? Any questions, comments on this presentation?
And that's if we go with KST as opposed to.
Correct.
Yeah, and that would just then push it back if we went with something.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, when did you say, when's the decision made on?
June 26th, Friday, June 26th, in 2 weeks. There's no board meeting in July, so we have a second board meeting in June, the end of June.
Okay.
So that's when the action will occur.
Again, anybody online? Okay, I do see a hand up from a member of the public, just noting we do not take comments or questions from members of the public until the very, very end of the meeting, just an FYI. Feel free to leave the hand up. With that, going to go ahead and pass it over to Greg for a presentation on station design.
Great, thanks. So we met last month, talked a little bit about station design. We don't have a lot to update today. Just want to let you know that we have taken some of the feedback that we got from the CWG DRC members last month. This is a general configuration of the station plaza, parking area, and frontage on Champions Way and Brokaw Road. The top half of the slide is the existing ramp that goes down to the Caltrain station that will remain generally as is. We're going to reconstruct the top half of it, but this is kind of the current configuration of the site. And again, we heard from the group that kind of part of one of the elements of our design is really to have a signature tree in that plaza, and the location of that tree. We kind of presented a couple different options last time we met. We're still evaluating that a little bit. We want to make sure that we get the improvements on the pavement and all the ground areas kind of delineated and a little bit more further advanced before we bring that back to you. So we'll be doing that next month, and I believe that's going to be on July 23rd. So we'll have a little bit more feedback or integrated feedback for the group, so we can take a look at that. Also looking at kind of maybe where some of those art locations could be. I know we talked about some of the medallions and things like that, and so we'll have a little bit further discussions for that next month. Same with the perforated metal panels. We do have, we did show this one. This was kind of the preferred option by most folks. We did get some varying opinions on whether we wanted that perforated panel to kind of stand out or whether we wanted to go with the flat metal panel. So appreciate everybody's feedback, but we will come up with a couple different alternatives to this perforation. We have some time to facilitate exactly what those perforations are. This was just a sample. And again, there's a lot of different ways to go about kind of having that, a standard integrated metal insulated metal panel, have some perforations and some design elements in it. On the left side, the 4 pictures there, those are existing facilities. And then on the right side, there's a couple different renderings. The original rendering we showed on the right, which is kind of that golden area. And then we started to look at some alternatives in terms of color as well as pattern. And that's the lower right to maybe bring in some more of that natural leaf kind of motif that we've been working with the group on. This is a concept of what the end cap of that head house facility could look like and be lit up with. Again, there could be some translucency on the end of that element of work, maybe integrated some artwork into that. And again, maybe some integrated LED lighting. And as you can see, we've kind of been looking at a couple different options on those perforations to the left of the station on the CIF building and kind of how that looks. So this is just one view. Again, we'll come back in July and present some more alternatives and get some more feedback from the group.
Thanks, Greg. As noted, this is FYI presentation, so we're going to move right on and discuss not disposal alternatives with Chris. Passing you the
Okay, well, thank you. So we'll start with what is muck. It is what it sounds like, actually. But more specifically, it's a mixture of all the material that's underground right now, as well as some conditioners that are used by the tunnel boring machine, which you see on the right in this photo here. The green is where the machine meets the existing ground, and then the material moves up. You can kind of follow the red up, and then it goes back. So it gets mixed, and it comes out as kind of a toothpastey material. Then it goes onto a conveyor system back into the yard in what we call a muck bin, where it's stored before it's hauled off. I don't know if I how to get these to play. So there's a couple examples here, 2 short videos of see how the material will move. There on the left, that's very typical of how the material would move, and then just slightly different. You can see the material is somewhat dry in the left example. If you run the other one, that's a little pastier example of material, how that will come out. So that's what the machine creates and then takes it to the muck. Oops. Okay. Right now, and historically through the environmental document, the assumption is it'll all be hauled off by truck to landfills or quarries. That's the base condition. We know we can do that. That's been environmentally cleared, and that's the kind of the ground level simplest way to deal with this. We are pursuing options to make sure we have alternatives and looking for a more efficient way and perhaps less costly way to move the muck. So we'll talk about some of that here. So one is just to reduce what's called the tipping fee, the fee to dump the material wherever we take it. So we've been working with what are the former salt ponds out in the El Viso area. And we've had some good success there. We'll talk about that, but they want material very badly out there to restore the ponds to marsh area for both environmental purposes as well as flood management and management of sea level rise out in that area. So the regulatory agencies are very interested actually in this material to fill those ponds up. We've also talked with 2 quarries in the area, Stevens Creek and Lehigh, or otherwise known as Permanente Quarry, over the years, which are both up in the foothills above Cupertino. So we've been talking with those 2 entities. And then we've also been looking at rail options for removing the muck. So the rail options are really applicable to the salt ponds. The former salt ponds, as well as Permanente Quarry, has historically used rail quite a bit over the many decades they've been operating up there in many different arenas. So the rail still goes there. They still have quite a bit of space up there. So those are the 2 opportunities that we're been pursuing and talking with the different entities for quite a while now. Just to get you some perspective of where they are relative to the project. The project is the blue line at the bottom. And you can see on the left where the new hall yard is. That's where we'll be generating the material. In this exhibit, we show the ponds areas. As you can see, there's a lot. They actually circle pretty much the whole bay, the South Bay anyway. We would be looking at A4 at the very bottom left, A8S, A12, and A13. We have 4 million plus cubic yards of material that will be generated by the boring machine. That is more than either A4 or A12 could handle combined. So we would, if we take all the material up there, we would need A4, A12, A8, some of A8 and some of A13. And we're working through where the best place is. There's different ponds, areas have different status of where they are relative to their post-use conditions. And actually the different entities are kind of talking up their need. So we have some competition going on up there for the material. In terms of the overall, it's a whole different environmental process that we're going through for the beneficial reuse of the material. That environmental document is well underway. We're looking to wrap that environmental document and get environmental clearance to put the material in those former ponds next year, mid to late summer of next year. We did get approval from the regulatory agencies. We did quite a bit of testing all along our proposed alignment for the tunnel, tested that material, and then did some additional tests with as I mentioned earlier, the conditioners that are added to the soil, and tested that. And we got letters from the 2 primary environmental entities that they would accept the material in the ponds. So that was really good news. We got that in the last couple months. So at a minimum, we'll be able to truck the material there. We are now testing for if we do rail movement of the material to build spur tracks up right next to ponds A12 and 13. And in order to build the rail spurs there, we have to remove some material and then build up from a solid foundation to place the rail spurs. We're testing that material with the hope that we can just take it out from where it is and put it directly over a levee into A12. So that test work is going on right now. We finished the field work we should get the results, whether or not it's acceptable or not, sometime late this month, maybe early next. And then we just continue to work with the regulatory agencies on a regular basis, and we'll all through the process. We've already started talks about the permitting that's going to be needed after the environmental documents approved. This shows the truck route that would be used to get up to the ponds. This is environmentally approved to use 880 and 237. And then we're working on the approval to get from 237 to the ponds themselves. That's part of the environmental document that's ongoing. And if we did it by truck, primary locations would be 4 and 8, ponds A4 and A8. A8 has a lot of capacity for it. So if it's by a truck, we would be putting a lot of the material in A8, A8S. The rail spur you can see here, it follows the existing line. We use the existing UPR line where a lot of trips are made currently for both commuter and for freight along this line that heads right up the East Bay. It runs immediately adjacent to A12 and 13. That's why we're looking at the spur right next to that there. So we would have spurs at Newhall and spurs at El Viso. It's about 6.5 miles route. And from there, we would put most of the material in ponds A12 and 13. If something prevents us from doing that, it can be weather, it could be breeding season, something unknown comes into a certain area, we could, with a very short, less than a mile route from there, still take the material by rail up to that location and then truck it less than a mile over to A8. So it still keep a lot of trucks off the freeways and off the local roads close to the project. The other option is the permanent quarry. As I mentioned, this shows the rail line as it heads down south, roughly following 880 or 17 till it gets south of 85, and then it heads west and heads up to the permanent site. So that's an existing line. Been there since I lived in Cupertino in the well, let's just say decades ago. We are hiring, we're going to bring on a rail designer to design the spur tracks. That process is well underway. The interviews were held earlier this month. We will go to the board in August for approval of the contract with the design team. And then we'll set off on a quick pace to get the designs done through and approved through UP and work through that design process to get that ready for construction for the spurs at both locations. The intent is to lease rail cars. There's options as to who actually would be doing that leasing, but they will be leased. And then right now the idea is there'd be 2 sets of rail cars in use. One would be at Newhall Yard. One would be out at the ponds during the day. They'd be loaded at the Newhall Yard site. Pretty much all day long they'd be loading. And then that would be taken up and dropped off up at the Newhall Yard. And by that time, while we're loading the cars at the Newhall Yard site, we're offloading the cars at the pond site. And then we take the rail cars that are loaded up to the ponds and bring back the empty cars back to Newhall and repeat basically on a daily basis. So that's our plan right now, working with UP on the right times to do that and all the other requirements we'd have to get cleared and agreements we have to get in place to make that happen. This shows a little bit more detail on the improvements out at the A12 pond. Again, on the left is the line we showed before going from the project up to the site. And a little detail on the right side shows what we call the impoundment area, which is just in this to the left or to the west of the railroad line is where we build the spurs, the pink magenta color. And then we take it right over the levee into pond A12, which was right there on the left. Just up off the screen is A13. Even, as I said, A12 by itself would not accommodate all the 4 million yards of material that would be generating. And this is the location of roughly, we have a lot of work to do working with KST on where their muck bin is going to finally be and how our spurs are located. But basically it comes off the last UP track in the yard area there and comes into the site. And that's where the spur tracks in green are shown on this exhibit in the new hall yard. So that's all the work that's going on. As I said, we've completed the material testing. The environmental document is ongoing and the designs will start in earnest in September. We expect final design to be done in April of 27. It's fairly straightforward rail design. Environmental clearance, summer of next year. And then in 27, we also get the industrial track agreements completed with UP, and we can start the UPRR improvements once those agreements are in place next year on the site, on the Newhall site. And then we expect those improvements complete at both sites in 2028. We won't, right now our schedule does not fully align with the start of tunneling operations, but because it's 3+ years of tunneling operations, it's still very worthwhile that we're offset by a few months in terms of when the rail will be in place versus the starting of the tunnel operations in Q1. So kind of already talked through this. We will getting the environmental clearance, UP and permanent quarry discussions continue ongoing, and the construction, as I mentioned, and coordination with UP. So a lot to do in the next 2 years for this work, but we're encouraged by all the conversations we've had and the work we've done to date.
Thanks, Chris. I think you hold on for a second for now. You're pass it up next to it. We have one hand up online. Gonna check it with Jonathan and then rest of the working group. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Okay, I have a couple questions and I'll just kind of ask them as I go. The first question I had was about how many trucks per day and what hours will they be running before the rail is available to do that transfer at night?
Yeah, so we're looking at generating on the order.
We don't know yet how many there'll be. Do
It's a range.
okay, you can provide a range, but yeah.
I mean, we don't know what the production is actually going to turn out to be, but it'll be hundreds of trucks that'll be needed to move the material.
Per day or?
Per day.
Per day.
Okay. And then I guess you mentioned
Sorry,
like
just real quick, Jonathan, can I just expand on that real quick before you go to your next question? Just want to make sure you know, as we advance this further and get further understanding, we'll be developing a construction transportation management plan for all this work, similar to what we did a couple of years ago for the work that's occurring now at the West Portal. So we'll be bringing you proactive many updates as that advances further. So you will get further clarity on it.
yeah, so you mentioned I think about the once the rail is done that will be moving at night. Like when you say at night, like do you like what sort of hours would that be? Because I mean I there's people who live by there, so I'm just kind of curious what they should expect as far as train noise.
We have not finalized the timing with UP. That'll take a while to do that, but initial conversations were it would leave sometime in the late evening, like 8-10 o'clock at night, and go up, to go north, and then come back sometime early morning in the 4 to 6 a.m. hour before the commute trains start running.
Okay, so kind of while people are sleeping. Okay. Hopefully they're not too loud. Okay. One other question I had is you mentioned that there is a beneficial uses for the muck as part of like a Baylands restoration. Uh, I know budgeting, as we was covered, was a problem. I have some actually I have another budgeting question, but are you looking at conduct restoration projects? Do they have a way to, if there's value in the muck, to pay in some way to help do this distribution so that we're not worrying about the costs as part of the, fully as being paid like waste, or do they have a way to could we get reimbursement through some sort of like bay restoration fund or, some other thing to help cover some of these costs? And if we've
We,
looked at
we,
that.
we do have a person, looking into that, specifically. Ann Callahan, who's been on the project for a long time. That's her task, is to look at any type of funding through the environmental elements of the project.
Okay. And I guess kind of related to that, I thought of this after a week gone past, but I did have a question about the budgeting. You mentioned it was mentioned earlier, the contract has changed to this sort of like go, as you go thing. How are we managing that? Like, given that it's like before you had the whole budget known up front, now it seems like it's going to be a little like hopefully reduce some risk, but the risk is still exposed. So how do we account for like if it ends up costing more than we expect and we don't have all the funding?
That's a great question. So we have a target price that we're working towards, and we pay the actuals. There are cost curves, and we are in constant coordination with them. And the cost curves kind of guide, the activities that have to occur underneath those. So there's going to be a lot of more oversight and engagement directly with the contractor as we move forward in order to ensure that we're looped in on what's going on, so that doesn't occur. They have incentive to finish earlier, from a cost schedule perspective, as they would be getting additional. They have some of their earned fee or profit that's at risk based on these agreed upon target price and the schedule and such. So they have incentive to beat their schedule in order to get that additional fee that if they do not, they will not receive. So that's the pain share, gain share, if we all succeed, then they're gonna get additional.
Yeah. So there's like a cost target that they go toward and they get less profit as it approaches that target. Certainly there are things that are outside of our control, right? And their control for cost, right?
Yes.
Who knows if their gas prices will ever be low again or
Right.
a lot of things contribute, right, to the construction cost. So if the worst case were to occur, what happens? Do we just not? Do we have a half completed?
We're gonna pay them for the work that they do at the cost that it is.
Correct. Yeah.
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 And so.
But if like, something goes wrong and like, I don't know, the cost of steel and cement and everything goes up 1,000% because that seems to be happening. Things like that, it's been variable. Then what happens? Like, under the previous kind of bid contract, right? We knew up front and they had the finish in some sense, right? Now we could still end up in that same situation, right? But then
Well,
is there
I
a plan?
think, yeah, so for now, I mean, that we have a lot of oversight and we're tracking all of those, the cost and escalation and such. And so as it goes up gradually, we'll be able to see that, we're working on getting additional funds available. And, as we're moving forward now, we're only authorizing this first year of work so that we can keep moving and keep up the momentum while we're figuring out, all the other elements at play, that you mentioned. The federal landscape and how we're able to release additional funds from our local and state regional resources, et cetera. Answer your question?
Not entirely, but I assume that's the answer we'll get. So thanks. Yeah.
Don?
Yeah. Just one thing, Jonathan, if you look back at the oversight, we can send you a link to the oversight committee where we went through in greater detail about the cost curve and how there's the cost control. That has a lot more information. So we'll follow up and send you that so you can understand better.
Sure. If you have that, that'll be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, John, over to you. Sorry.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So let's, first off, the muck, what kind of smell? I mean, there's wind, comes up at noon every day and it wafts our way. I mean, is this thing gonna, is this conditioner have a smell
The
to it?
conditioners do not, no. I mean, this is clean soil, it's been sitting under the ground for a long time. I don't believe that. We'll have to check into that. I've not had that question.
Well, maybe I was thinking more of what
No.
the conditioner, the additive going to smell. I would suspect the dirt will be pretty.
No, the additives are basically soap. I mean, that's the simple term for
It
them.
just clings and
They just help to formulate the material in a way that they can work with it better.
Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty inert.
Yeah.
So just jumping on what Jonathan said, is there sounds like an opportunity to go and reduce our costs, some kind of bidding war between the quarries and the salt ponds for all our muck. I mean, it would seem like a nice way to.
We are hunting, we are hunting, and that's why we're talking with as many as we can, to see, because there's a lot of need actually out there for material. Our materials just happens to be muck, so it's a little different than this.
It's clean work. It sounds like it's got soap in it.
It is, but it's not directly usable. But the ponds do want to, even at a minimum, if you take this material to a dump somewhere or some system like that, you're going to pay every time the truck goes in. So at a minimum, we're eliminating that.
Yeah.
So that cost, that's one. The second is we're 6 miles away now instead of many miles away.
Outside the county.
To go somewhere else. So both of those have already, I think, are already positives. We haven't put complete numbers on those yet, but because it's kind of been recognized. But and then with the quarry, we would not have to build a second set of spurs, because they already have areas up there, and they've used that area up there to load and offload this type of volume of material over the decades. So that would also, if we can work that out, that would also be a savings.
Are they quote unquote environmentally required to fill after they've taken out what they want? They are required to go fill it back in.
Yes.
All right, so they have an economic incentive to go ahead and bid or somehow want it. Oh, that's great. That's good. Play them off on each other there. That's good. All right, so when it comes back to more how it impacts the New Hall Neighborhood Association, which is just, I guess it would be east of the construction, just on the other side of the Caltrain rail lines. Noise is, of course, a big problem for us. So let's just start. So your big picture here, it sounds like tunnel excavation starts on Q1 2028, and then this rail muck removal, at least rail, would start somewhere in Q3. I mean, that's the plan today. Tomorrow it'll change, but so there'll be a 2-quarter, 6 months where it's envisioned hundreds of trucks per day will transport to, one of these destinations that are yet to be determined. And now, would the trucks, their operation, and again, maybe we'll need an update in the future, but would that be hundreds of trucks a day, and would that be a 24-hour operation?
That's something that we're still working through and figure it out. So that definitely will be part of that update as we get closer and are developing the construction transportation management plan.
Because he's just doing hundreds. I mean, that's 24 hours in a day. I'm not great in math, but that's going to be a lot of per hour. So may have to go 24 hours. That may be a concern. You don't want to automatically say that that's a concern. I don't know how much noise it makes when it goes into the carrying area of a truck, and what's it called?
Well, they're doing it now.
Yeah.
There has been significant truck movement already during the excavation of the portal. there's, for reference, there's about 130,000 cubic yards to be excavated. We're over 57% complete on that. So there's a lot of truck movements happening right now.
But what about that sound of the muck hitting? Yeah, you have conveyor belts and they're actually departing and
It's actually an excavator that we're using directly to load the trucks from there'll be a photograph shortly, actually, we can look at it then. And then during the tunneling phase, you know, as Chris mentioned, there'll be a muck bin. That conveyor will, from the tunnel, from the machine itself, will run to that muck bin. And then that muck bin will be the repository for loading either to trucks or rails from that point there.
Very similar to what's going on
What's
right now.
happening.
yeah, okay. And I thought I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, something about a drying process.
The muck will be wet. First of all, it's underwater right now because of the water table. So, and then, so it'll come out wet, it'll dry. And then, I mean, they won't put it directly into a truck because it just wouldn't work.
We're talking, yeah, okay, all right,
But, yeah,
all right. So there'll be,
that's what the muck bin is for. So
is the drying process. Okay, all right. All right, so when we move to Q3, Q3 and, you know, at least theoretically right now, the rail will be used to theoretically go up to the salt ponds. And you're saying 8 to 10 p.m. He said what, two, so it'd be like, as an example, 10-car train that would depart. Two of them, two sets of 10.
Right now, we're looking at loading on the order of 50 rail cars.
50.
50.
Okay.
To replace the hundreds of trucks.
Okay.
50 rail cars, and it'll be one run a day. That time is UPR just can't. We just have a lot of work to do with them to figure out what the right windows are, and it has to be consistent so we can load every day and so on. And we're trying to figure out the right balance and working with KST on what the production rate is going to be. We don't want empty rail cars sitting out there, so we want to get the right number. So those
The order of magnitude about 50.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're gonna try and
order of
depart
magnitude.
between 8 and 10. Caltrain comes by, they're gonna need track time too, I guess. And then you'll have a process in place to unload all 50 at the marsh at salt ponds, and then depart between 5 and 6 a.m.
That's our current process, but again, that's very subject to change. Both because we're not close enough. They can't really predict 2 years in advance what their demands on the rail will be and when we'll be able to fit in. But that's the thought right now, because those are the windows that are open.
I see. Okay. All right, and then I guess empty rail cars coming back. I always, the trucks that come by at 880, the empty ones are the loudest because they bounce around. And the full ones don't bounce around. I mean, that's between 4 and 6 is going to be could be pretty loud. I think going to travel at a certain slow pace or something like that. It's going to be somehow regulated.
We're only 6 miles away, so we have talked a little bit about the speed. They're not gonna. It is a significant haul. I mean, a significant load they're hauling, either empty or full, and so they're not going to be traveling at the speed of the commuter trains. It's going to be fairly low speed.
Yeah,
I mean, 6 miles by the time they get up to speed, they got to slow down. So.
Yeah. My concern is the 4 to 8, 4 to 6 window, and again, that may change tomorrow, but that's what we're looking at now, and they'll be empty returning. Those are the empty 1 and 2 at a really vulnerable time for our neighborhood. That would be some of our concerns right there. So, all right, I guess that's all my questions related to the MUP.
Thanks, John. Sean?
Just curious, does the noise introduced by this process fall under the same requirements for the site noise, edge limits involved in what's going on now? Or is it kind of exempt from that because it's rail?
Yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
there'll be an environmental document that's completed for the hauling of the, the use of the rail spur for hauling, and so that will evaluate what noise mitigations are needed. So it will have its own evaluation done.
Yeah, we're clearing both ends. We have to do an addendum to the current project.
Yeah.
The environmental document and then the new document out of ponds. So both you go through the environmental process.
Would help us out when that, and you presented it, but now it's a little bit more important to us there.
Fair enough. The new environmental document of the ponds, we're looking at completing that, and getting approval of that next summer, next August-ish, 27th. Excuse me, 20. No, I'm getting confused. 28. Out of the ponds. I have to go back to my slides. And the environmental document for the current project is late this year, Q4 of this year.
But the environmental paperwork.
Yeah, so new haul yard is either Q4, and I actually just heard maybe that's gonna slip to Q1 of 27. Comes first, and then the environmental clearance for the new haul yard comes after that.
Okay. If y'all don't mind, let me check with those online. We have about 6 minutes left in this particular section of the conversation today. Todd, Sheldon, Jack, or Alvin, any comments from any of you on this?
I'll just quickly weigh in. I'm excited to see that we're studying this rail spur alternative, or just the rail alternative. I think it's a great solution, and one that is using heavy rail and it's going to potentially limit the impact on our South Bay roads. So I applaud the team for exploring that and hope it works out for everyone.
Yeah, I'll just second that. Devil's in the details, but it does sound promising, and glad to see it's being studied.
Thanks, Alvin. Any other comments from members of the CWG here today? All right, moving on. Going to pass things on to, if you could hit the clicker one time, the construction update gonna be given to us by Brian Kern, construction manager. Right?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna give a quick recap of what it is that we're building out there, where we are exactly in terms of status, and then what's to come over the next 12 months or so. So on the screen there is the launch structure. So this is early works package 3C. That was authorized fully last February, so February of 2025. The structure is intended to, it's the tunnel boring machine is going to get launched from the deepest section, which is at the Caterpillar shaft towards the left-hand side of the screen there. Laser doesn't work on the screen, but you can see the tri-cell Caterpillar shaft towards the left-hand side there. We start at grade on the right, and then we descend at a gradual grade towards a maximum depth of 72 foot. It's comprised of sheet piles on the far right-hand side, and then it transitions as we get deeper to a underground retaining structure, which is referred to as a diaphragm wall, and then into the Caterpillar shaft. You can then also see an outline of the bored tunnel just at the very bottom left. I'm happy to report that actually all of the underground structures are now complete, and we're well advanced into the excavation and bracing phase, and you'll see that from the subsequent slides. So this is a snapshot of where we're at exactly. We update this on a weekly basis. Again, the structure is shown in the middle. On the top is a plan view, and that is showing that we're advancing with the concrete slabs from right to left. So you can see all of the concrete slabs from 2A down to 3F have already been poured. That's 32% of the concrete poured. The reason that figure might stand out as incorrect is that the slabs get a lot thicker as we get deeper. So they're 3-foot slabs at the moment. By the time we get to the caterpillar shaft, they actually go to 10-foot thick slabs. In terms of the bracing in the middle diagram, we're 81% complete on the bracing installation. And then the final image, the section on the bottom, that shows a current excavation profile. So the blue cyan color shows what's been excavated, and what's left to go is shown in gray. So we haven't actually started the caterpillar shaft excavation. That's due to commence imminently, but a large proportion of the ramp structure itself has already been excavated. And then this is a bird's eye view. This is taken just about 3 weeks ago on May 19th. So this really gives an appreciation of how the structure looks and how it's coming to life. Again, on the right-hand side, you can see probably just about make out the sheet piles, which then transition into sheet piles that are supported with those pipe struts. And then we transition into the diaphragm wall section. Again, the whole structure is getting deeper and deeper as we go through. And on the very left of this screen is that caterpillar shaft. At that point in time, we had just poured half of the cap beam, which is the structure that sits on top of the caterpillar shaft, to tie together all of the diaphragm walls. So you can just see a right-hand side of that had been poured. The left-hand side was still, we were still doing the final rebar preparations, and that's since been poured a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to take you inside the excavation now. On the left is a photograph from our third level of bracing. So we're using pipe struts. These are connected to whalers on either side of the excavation. They're actually preloaded, so there's hydraulic jacks that exert pressure on these struts, essentially pushing back against the soil that's pushing against the structure from the outside. And then there's shims placed to ensure that those struts are doing what they need to do. So you can see on the bottom, the whales are in, but the struts are not yet in place. The level above, the struts have been already preloaded. Once the struts are preloaded, that allows the team to excavate the next level of excavation cut, which you're seeing then in real life on the right-hand side picture. So that's the excavator John I was talking about earlier. It's called a long reach excavator for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It's got a very long reach on it. And you can see the truck there just adjacent to it, ready to receive the soil there, which comes out, it's very loose material. You get about 4 or 5 buckets that fills one truck, and then the next truck is lined up behind it, and off we go. And this is a nice picture of the caterpillar shaft. This is looking north. So this is essentially where the tunnel boring machine is going to commence its journey, just off the page to the right. You can see there's a very large top strut there right in front of us. There's actually 3 of these that tie the caterpillar shaft together. And we're going to start that excavation. If not tomorrow, we're starting on Monday to start taking that down to that first level of, there's pipe struts that go into the structure as well. So the excavation is about to commence on this, which is the final section of the long structure, really, to start the excavation process. And this is a couple of more interesting photographs. So on the one on the left, you're really starting to see the final product here now. So we are about halfway down the launch structure, obviously we have an overbridge where you can walk directly across the open excavation. You can see the working slab, the concrete slab has been already poured directly below where the photograph is taken. And the next slab is under preparation. You can make out the rebar mesh there just in the middle of that picture. The item on the left-hand side there, that's actually a personnel hoist that takes workers up and down and allows people to egress in an emergency scenario. And then on the right, this is the sound or the noise curtain. That large section of the noise curtain that's directly adjacent to the Caterpillar shaft, we recently relocated that closer to the structure itself. Since it got installed last year, it's been 4 or 5 foot in towards the rail, in towards the UP and JPB rail corridor. Now that we've constructed the Caterpillar shaft, we've been able to move that back flush with the rest of the noise curtain. So it's going to remain in place now for the remainder of the excavation and then on into tunneling.
That was
Okay,
because you needed the space, the additional
Yeah.
space to construct the Caterpillar shaft, why it was pushed out, right?
that's right. That working space there, you can't quite see it from this photograph, but there's some large structures there that really just butted right up against the rail corridor. So we needed just that little bit more room from UPRR, who we've worked with very successfully to move through that arrangement. And now we're happy to move that noise curtain back. So I think in summary, the structure has been, this phase of work has been very successful from a schedule perspective. Safety record's been excellent. Quality, we're really, really happy with. And the next slide is really just what the future holds now for the next 12 months or so, especially in light of everything Erica just said earlier in the presentation with respect to additional funding and moving forward with KST. So this is a diagram of the New Hall Yard West Portal site. We have the structure which is being built. As I said, that's 85% complete. The tunnel boring machine is also has been fabricated, but there's a lot of other things that need to happen before tunneling can commence. So moving left to right on the page here, on that far left-hand wedge of the site, as it approaches the 880 there, that's where we will be installing, commissioning 2 substations, 1 high voltage substation and 1 medium voltage substation. And that's required to take the power from the adjacent PG&E switch yard and step that down, provide power to the tunnel boring machine and distribute power site-wide. There will be some additional preparation within the structure itself. The Caterpillar shaft needs to get fitted out with a launch structure and a cradle and a head wall and eye seal. All of these things are required for the machine to be able to thrust off and commence its tunneling process. We will also begin constructing the tunnel lining factory. So right in the middle of the site, we will be installing a batch plant, and there's a very sort of sophisticated and state-of-the-art batching plant and casting facility where all of the segments required for the tunnel liner will get cast on site and produced on site. Adjacent to that, there will be a large storage yard where you'll start seeing these segments getting stored and stacked. You need to build up quite a surplus of the segments ahead of tunneling to make sure that you have enough to feed the machine as it commences its journey there. And then, as Chris mentioned on his rail spur presentation, there will be a muck bin that's shown in the sort of pink towards the right-hand side here. That's going to connect to the conveyor system that's going to run off the back of the machine and along the tunnel. So that muck bin needs to get constructed and integrated into the rail spur that we're also implementing. Along with everything I've said, there's also 1,000 other things to get ready. There's conveyor systems, there's grout plants, there's the additives that Chris mentioned earlier as well. There's specialized equipment to carry segments. There's cranes that are going to be required to move segments around. So really converting the site from its current configuration, which is really the launch structure in isolation, into a facility that's ready to commence and then support tunneling throughout the whole operation.
Is that 4 million tons you guys estimated? Was that what it was for the month?
4 million cubic yards.
Oh, cubic yards. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
That's the last slide from the intersection. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna continue on, finish the construction update, and take questions, comments after the fact. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, this will be brief. Just wanted to make sure you all are aware, we will be doing a temporary closure of the parking lot south of Santa Clara Street between Montgomery and Barack Obama Boulevard, from July 20th through October 18th. Reopening on October 19th, excuse me, yes, October 19th on the slide, shown on the slide there. No changes to pedestrian circulation or traffic circulation, just that one parking lot will be closed. So just wanted to share with you all, we'll be doing a bunch of outreach. Can you advance this slide, please? As well, with public notices, updates on our website. We'll be reaching out to you all to help amplify the message to your communities for those who park in that area, to know what will be happening.
Thank you both. Any questions, comments from Mr. CWG? You're gonna start with Don.
Okay, so let's see, you're constructing way to the left or the maybe the south, two substations, and they're permanent to juice the system, or is that just for construction?
Just for the tunnel boring, for the temporary construction phase, yes.
I see. Okay.
The permanent facilities will also be on the same site though. So we're actually working with PG&E to get all that power set up for the TBM. That'll power the TBM. That same site will then be refurbished for the actual powering the BART trains.
I see. Okay. All right. And there any noise related to that, I mean, bracketing, clicking and all that stuff?
There would be a transformer hum potentially, but I don't think it's going to be any different than the PG&E substation there that's out there right
It's
now.
on the other side of the
Yeah.
80. We don't hear that because that's not our neighborhood.
Well, this PG&E substation, if you can see on the map, is actually on the north side of 80.
Oh, that's right.
Right, there's a lot of PG&E equipment there, so we're essentially going to be putting in some gear right on the other side of the fence. So it's really not gonna have anything that you notice.
Okay. Also, you had mentioned that, it was the underground structure. What's the one all the way to the south? The Caterpillar. So the tunnel boring machine will come in down your concrete ramp, right? And then start in, or are you going to drop it through the Caterpillar?
A lot of the major components will get lifted down through the Caterpillar.
I see.
Yeah, but then there will, throughout operations, there will be sufficient headroom to drive down through the ramp for segments, and to service the tunnel operations.
I see. As well as the muck removal.
Muck coming out will come out all the way, up the ramp on a conveyor, and that conveyor system will extend with the tunnel machine as it's advancing its boring operation.
Yeah, with a quite the extension too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess, and then just after all, maybe I can talk with both of you, where the exact location, where the sound is coming out of the hole, and that's a big concern for the neighborhood. We've all been at BART locations where BART comes out of the ground, and it's, if you haven't been there, you should try it. It's quite loud. We just want to know where that's at. And also when the trains will be at grade, we can talk about that after.
Thanks, Don. Any other questions, comments? Members of the CWG online? Okay. Hearing none, we're gonna move on to our last section, just brief set of next steps for you all to keep in mind. As it was mentioned, there will be an interim meeting in July that will happen on Thursday, July 23rd. That will happen in this very location. Beyond that, we have two regularly scheduled quarterly CWG meetings for the rest of 2026. One is right now as of September 17th and November 19th. Of course, as those dates approach, the details will be confirmed. As is always the case with Santa Clara CWG, the location will be this very one. Beyond that, there is a VTA Board of Directors meeting on Friday, June 26th, 9 a.m. That will happen at the County Building, West Heading, at the Board of Supervisors chambers. Want to open it up to members of the CWG first, and then check in with any members of the public. Before I do that, I do want to note we will send a link on the chat to members of the CWG online for you to fill out a poll, give us feedback on this meeting. For those of you here in person, the QR codes in front of you are going to take you to that poll. It is quite a simple one question. Just slides. Let us know how we did in this meeting. Hopefully we improve as we keep going in this effort. That being said, let's get to the questions, comments about the meeting broadly, anything that sticks with you. I'm gonna start with John, then gonna check in online, and then again, if there's time, we'll get to the public as well. John.
Yeah, and thank you for sending the meeting notes a couple days ago. I appreciate that. I must admit, as soon as I hit the station design section, which was not complete, I kind of stopped. Your presentation will be is on that. I mean, with all the percentages and geographically how far they've gone, everything like that. They were there. I didn't. I stopped after the. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We were still preparing the design slides, so that's why they didn't go out.
Yeah, she informed me of that. No
they'll-
problem at all. I just want to make sure that. Yeah, those graphics are in there. I'd like to look at them.
Thanks, John. Jonathan?
I just had a quick question. So I think I indicated last time, but the dates you have for your future CWG meetings, not the July one, but the September and November ones, I have known conflicts at that time. I have a conflict. So is there any chance we can schedule to different dates or do a survey of members as to what dates work with them? Because
Yeah,
you
that's
somehow
something
like 2 dates that don't work for me, which is just kind of amazing, but it happened.
Yeah, we can certainly reach out. We can certainly reach out and have a check in with members. See what alternative can be identified.
Did the invites go out for those already?
Yes, calendar invites did, but we can update in the survey.
Great. Any other comments, questions from CWG members? Okay. Any comments, questions from anyone attending from the public? Nothing. Okay. Thank you all. Really appreciate your time once again. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.